the SWBC Mortgage Dallas Cowboys Legends Show.
Tony Dorsett has scored his first touchdown as a pro.
Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
Tony Hill, touchdown, Tony Hill.
Brought to you by
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Mahindra Tractors. Get the best 7-year warranty in Texas. And by SWBC Mortgage. Prepare to win. Call SWBC for all your insurance needs.
now your hosts, Mickey Spagnola and Bill Jones.
It's 7 o'clock on a Wednesday night at the Star in Frisco, Texas. And you know what that means, Mickey Spagnola?
What's going on tonight, Bill?
It's time for the Cowboys Legend Show. I am Bill Jones along with Mickey Spagnola. We got a nice crowd out here on a Wednesday night. The ever-growing crowd here at the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
Did they come to see me and you?
I don't think so. We've got our largest crowd of the season, and it can only be for one reason, because we've got the Hall of Fame master in the house tonight, Randy White. Hello, Randy.
Well, Bill, Mickey, glad to be here. My pleasure.
You know, we've been worrying about our crowds. We should have just invited you sooner.
I don't think it's got a whole lot to do with me.
Oh, I don't know. All I know is this is the most ladies we've had ever.
I tell you
That's
what,
right, and they're all sitting on the front row.
Yeah.
I tell you, you're right.
Either the Manster or the Magnet. I'm not sure which it is.
It's something like that. So what have you been up to since the last time I saw you on Sunday morning on CBS 11 on Cowboys Game Day, which you can see Randy White each and every Sunday morning throughout the Cowboys season?
Bill, I'm so glad that we do the pregame show, because I don't have to come back and go over my predictions on the postgame
that's right.
show. But,
That's right. Your predictions, you're like 2-2 on your predictions so far this year. And oddly enough, the Cowboys' record is 2-2.
Yeah,
also.
I'm gonna have to work on that one. But yeah, 2-2.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I hope I do much better from here on out. But no, I just been getting ready for next week. Bill, studying, reading up what's going on, who's saying what, with the Cowboys. I always
See, he likes this. This analyst stuff, which he's been doing for years, by the way.
Yeah, but I don't like to read too much, because I like to watch the game, and then I form my own opinion of what I think.
That's right.
And then when I get there to the show on Sunday, we have a little time to visit, and then I start giving my opinion. Bill always covers me, Mick. I tell you,
what we need to do
Bill
is televise.
He's a savior.
What we need to do is televise the pre-show meeting, and then you get how Randy really feels about things.
Yeah, but I don't know how
Whether
long.
it's Cowboys or politics or whatever. That's the great stuff.
Yeah, but I don't know how long we keep our show on here.
That's right. You might not have that job much longer.
Well, since you don't get a chance to give post-game analysis, what did you think of that? You got a chance now. What did you think of that performance against the Rams?
Well,
leave it to Mickey to put a downer on the show right off the top.
Tell you, I think that holding call against Frederick was a terrible call. That could have won him the game. And I said that special teams was going to win the game in the pregame show.
And kind of lost him the game.
And I think it kind of hurt him a little bit.
Cost him 10 points.
Kind of hurt him a little bit. So,
okay.
But, that game could have went either way. It comes down to, who's going to win the fourth quarter. We talked about that all last year. When you get in the fourth quarter, you got to win the fourth quarter. And we weren't able to do that on Sunday, so that's what hurt us. But they got to get back, in my opinion, to the continuity they've had last year, where they came out, they can run the football, they established that running game, and then continue to do that throughout the game, which opens other things up. They have not been able to do that consistently yet, and I think until they do, they're going to stumble around. But I still think they have enough talent they can win a lot of football games.
So Packers up on Sunday. Have you studied up on the Packers?
Not a lot, but
you only need to know one thing, right? Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is there, and you got to pressure Aaron Rodgers. If you don't do anything else, you have to pressure Aaron Rodgers, or he's going to beat you in that fourth quarter. Of course, you always got to control the running game up front, but Aaron Rodgers is a great player, and if we can establish the running game, again, that's the strength of this football team, is being able to run that ball, sustain that running game. 2 weeks ago, we were able to do that in the fourth quarter.
Right.
We win the game. Last week, we were not able to do that. We lose the game.
Yeah, it helps when you're not trailing by 10 points or whatever.
Yes.
They stay with that running game.
The
Right?
difference this week is they had a lead heading into the second half. They didn't win the second half. It was a tale of two halves.
Yep.
Oh, boy. That sounds like a headline.
That's right. It was kind of Charles Dickens-like. Hey, guess what? We got a wireless microphone. Where'd she go? Where's Smacker?
She's right there.
All right. There's Smacker. Okay, there she is. Smacker Miles, who is the real star of the Cowboys Legend Show. She's got the wireless microphone for all of you in attendance here. If you have a question for the Manster or for Mickey,
or for Bill,
find Smacker, and you can have some airtime and ask a question. By the way, Smacker Miles, former swimmer at the University of Texas, the daughter of former LSU and Oklahoma State head coach Les Miles, and she's doing a great job working for Cowboys television. And so, Smacker, how are you? There we are.
You'll be better now.
Let's
Go
see.
ahead.
Uh-oh, here we go. We're going to get that microphone ready. I threw a curveball there. And Smacker, Smacker will have that microphone working shortly.
You have to have good batteries, you know.
So over the course of the next hour, we're not only talking about the current Cowboys, but we're going to go back in the past in Randy's career.
Okay.
And there's so much to get into. And I love hearing the stories from not only Randy's career, but the off-the-field stories as well, which some of which, or most of which, he cannot talk about on the air. But
yeah, there's a lot of them I can't talk about. There's a young lady sitting over here at the bar, and she said that I called her on 2 of her birthdays, and I was holding my breath to see which birthday it was and when it was. But I was safe. I got out easy on that one.
He's not only got ladies sitting on the front row on a couch in front of us over at the bar. There's ladies at the bar too. He is a magnet.
No, I'm not. No. I remind them of their grandfather. That's why they like to come see me.
Or Santa Claus.
Or Santa Claus.
That's
yeah.
right. You know he did
but
those.
Santa Claus got more hair, Bill.
That's right. He did those Under Armour commercials at Christmas time a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
What was your name on those?
Armor Claus.
Armor Claus.
Armor Claus.
Yeah.
That's right.
Was this TV or radio?
Yeah, it was on TV. Yeah, you can look it up. Look on YouTube and go Armor Claus, Randy White Armor Claus. Those are great commercials.
The thing I learned the most that I remember about doing those Christmas commercials for Under Armour, I did them with a bunch of little people.
That's right.
What does that mean?
To the Manster, everyone's a little people.
No, but originally I said the word midget.
Oh,
you don't say the word midget around little people. They're little people, they're not midgets. And I didn't know. I mean, it was out of ignorance, but I learned right away quick. You do not call little people midgets. They're little people.
So you've never done that on the air?
What? I never did one on the air. No.
Until now.
First time I told that story, Bill.
Well, good. We got breaking news.
All right, Smacker, you got your microphone working now?
Yes,
How are
do.
you, Smacker?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good.
You going to be able to handle this big crowd
This
tonight?
is the largest
Yeah,
crowd we've
I am.
had
I'm
for a Legend
excited.
show.
Don't let them intimidate you or anything now.
Yeah, wave me down. I'll be ready.
And judging from this crowd, make sure you don't give up the mic.
Got it.
Okay?
Got it.
By the way, Smacker's dad, Les Miles, will be involved in Cowboys coverage on DallasCowboys.com on Sunday. The pre- and post-game coverage streaming live on DallasCowboys.com. I know that we're looking forward to hearing the analysis of Les Miles, a former Cowboys assistant coach, of course.
So are you pushing any other products that we need to know about?
Not right now.
Not now.
No, not right now. I'm just enjoying
How do you spend your time?
training my 5-month-old Belgian Malinois puppy. I got about a 5-month-old Belgian Malinois puppy, and I'm training him, and I'm do that. You think it's like having a baby almost. I mean, it is.
This is the one that sleeps with you, right?
Yes, this is the one that sleeps with me.
It is like a baby.
It is, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. But every day, I mean, it requires, if you want to, just like anything else, if you want a product that's going to do well, you have to put something into it. So, every day, twice a day, I train this dog. And in my schedule here lately, I've tried to make it revolve around being able to train him. So that's
What are you training this dog to do?
Well, I just want him to be obedient. to all the obedience stuff, and I'm also going to train him to do some of the guard work that they're known for, and
like protect
y'all
you
wanna
at
hear
your
about
house.
Dogs? These dogs are very driven dogs, and they tell you when you go to get one that if you're not ready to put at least 2 or 3 hours into this dog every day, you should not get a Belgian Malinois, because they're very high driven and they want a job and they like doing their job. So, I enjoy doing that. So that's what I've been doing here lately.
Well, if he trains the dog as well as he's trained his cattle.
Well, Mickey's seen the way my cows are trained.
You haven't been out there?
I haven't been out there.
Okay, so how many, should I call them cows, or are they?
Pets, my pets.
They're your
cows.
pets. So how many you have out there?
About 15.
15, the biggest things you guys have ever seen, right? So we go out there, and we're going to do an interview with Randy, and we wanted to take a picture, and I go, God, it'd be really neat if the cattle were, like, behind us. Well, they were on the far end of his pasture, right? And you tell the rest of the story. What did you do?
Well, I just whistled, and they came.
It was like the charge of the Light Brigade. Now he whistles, and they come storming towards us, right? And I'm going, I hope that fence works, right?
Mickey hid behind the manster as they stormed towards you.
But then here was the key. He goes in the other barn, and he pulls out this big bucket, and he starts feeding them.
Yeah, you got to bribe them with the feed. I mean, that's
right.
I do the same thing with the puppy. When I want him to get in the truck or sit, stay down, he always gets a treat. You got to find something they like more than what you're asking them to do. So they'll do that to get the treat.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, I know. I knew you wanted to know that. So that's why. I brought it up.
You got more fodder for your pregame show on Sunday now.
Well, and I did let on that he told me I don't know that he told me in confidence. I guess it wasn't in confidence because I'm about to say it. But he said he enjoys sleeping with that dog.
I do.
Didn't you? You said that.
I do.
I've got 2 beagles that sleep with us.
Yeah, with that little. His name is Gunner. And that little bugger, he snuggles next to you, and he just he gives me kisses. He almost suffocates me. He starts licking me in the face. He gets on top of me. I can't get him
How big
off.
is this dog?
Well, right now he's about 40 pounds. He'll get to be about 65, 70. So.
Wow.
The break, I want you to call it up. I want to see what they look like.
Yeah, okay, we'll do that. So, what kind of dog is that again?
Belgian Malinois.
All right.
And if this was 6 months from now, I would be able to bring him in here, and he would be as well behaved as any 10-year-old kid that you ever saw.
Wow. All right, we're just getting started here.
These people want to hire Randy now to train their kids.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. All right, yeah, you're talking about him being obedient and wanting a job to do. It's not like any millennial that I've ever met.
Well, that's why I didn't get a millennial. I got a dog.
That's right. All right, we continue here on the Cowboys Legend Show from the Cowboys Club at the Star in just a moment.
to myself, I had my eyes upon the prize, ain't watching anybody else. But your love, it hit me hard, girl, yeah, you're bad for my health. I love the cards that I've been dealt. Do you feel the same as well? You know I used to be in one league, I'm not free. People want me for one thing, that's not me. I'm not changing the way that I used to be. I just wanna have fun and get rowdy. One Coke and Bacardi, sipping lightly. When I walk inside the party, girls on me. F1 type Ferrari, 6 speed. Girl, I love it when your body grinds on me. Baby, you know I love it when the music's loud, but come on, strip that down for me. Baby, now there's a lot of people in the crowd, but only you can dance to me. So put your hands on my body and swing that round for me. Baby, you know I love it when the music's loud, but come on, strip that down for me. Yeah, 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 yeah. Swept me off my feet. You know that I don't need no money when your love is beside me. Yeah, you opened up my heart and then you threw away the key. Girl, now it's just you and me, and you don't care about where I've been. You know I used to be in one league.
Mortgage Dallas Cowboys Legends Show, broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
And welcome back to the Dallas Cowboys Legends Show from here at the Star in Frisco. We're in the quarterback corner of the Cowboys Club, overlooking the indoor practice facility known as Ford Center here at the Star. We've got high school football tomorrow night, Thursday night and Friday night out here in the plaza, the Tostitos Plaza area. Understand we're on Star Vision out there.
So say hi to everybody out there, right?
Randy, say hello to all the fans out there in Tostitos Plaza.
Hello.
Here at the Star, and they're able to watch the show. What a great place with all the restaurants opening up, with the Omni Hotel as well. It's a great place to go on a very nice evening weather-wise like tonight. I am Bill Jones with Mickey Spagnola and Randy White, our Legends guest, and we are brought to you by SWBC Mortgage. For more than 40 years, SWBC has been helping people, companies, and financial institutions prepare to win in Texas and across the country. Visit SWBC.com to learn more. And Smacker Miles has the wireless microphone. Let's kick off this segment with a question from a guest here at Cowboys Club.
Yep, here's Vicky.
Hi, Vicky.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Oh, there's Vicky.
I'm guessing this question's for Randy.
Yes, okay, I have a question. Okay, so today's salaries are very different than they were in the past, and I'm just wondering, did you have to have a job during the off season, and if so, what did you do?
You know what? I really didn't. When I started playing professional football, that was my job. And in the off season, I trained, I lifted weights, and I went fishing. And I never really, I probably should have, but I really never did have a job in the off season other than doing personal appearances and different things like that would come up. But
And Randy was the number 2 overall pick in the 1975 draft. You remember what that first salary was, or the signing bonus, any of that stuff from 1975?
of course, Bill, I tell you an interesting story. I made $90,000, $100,000, and $110,000 a year for my first 3 years. I got an $80,000 signing bonus. Well, I kept 40. I gave 20 to my mom and dad. I gave 10 to my brother and 10 to my sister. Well,
That's nice.
That was big bucks.
yeah. Well, I know. You're kidding. My dad earned $10,000 a year till the day he died being a butcher. So, I mean, I thought I was rich, right? But I forgot you had to pay taxes on that money. So I gave half of it away and had to pay the taxes. I got about zero out of that.
Did Gil Brandt give it to you in $1 bills?
No.
He was famous for that.
I know.
So, but when you started, the salaries started coming around, other than not like the guys in the '60s and the early '70s when, gosh, they were making maybe $20,000 a year.
No. The salary started to increase. Like when I first came in the league, that contract I got was a pretty good contract. I think Walter Payton made more when he went to the Bears that year. Back then, they just started sharing what guys on other teams made to get. And my agent, Howard Schlusser, he was kind of like the bad boy and started.
I remember that.
Yeah, he started a lot of trouble, and But, near the end of my career, we were making, at the time, I thought was just, fabulous money, So, but the year I retired, I think Russell Maryland came in, and I think his signing bonus was like $1 million, and he had made $900,000, $1 million, and $1,010,000 or something in that category. And I think the most I ever made my last year was $850,000. That was the last year of my contract, which was, lots of money to me.
So the next year they drafted Troy Aikman, and
the salaries right then they started bumping up
like
with the television.
$11 million over 4 years.
And now $850,000 is a little less than what the veteran minimum salary is in the league.
Well, I heard something the other day. Somebody said that the average salary is $2.2 million a year is the average salary of a player.
I wouldn't argue with that because with the quarterbacks, and if you guys remember, the only player drafted ahead of Randy was a quarterback,
Steve Bartkowski,
right?
Steve Bartkowski was drafted ahead of me.
Lee Steinberg, first real client.
Yeah, and Baltimore had the number 1 pick in the draft, and the night they kept telling me, I went to Maryland, they kept telling me they were going to pick me. So the night of the draft, they made a trade with Baltimore. Baltimore picked Atlanta picked Steve Bartkowski. Dallas had the second pick from Craig Morton when they made the trade to New York. They picked me. Third pick was a guard from North Carolina named Ken Huff, went to Baltimore. And the number 4 pick was Walter Payton.
So just know how good Randy was in college. He got drafted ahead of Walter Payton.
After my first 2 years of fooling around at middle linebacker, I'm thinking the Cowboys, Walter Payton. I'm glad when we drafted Tony. and I actually finally, my third year, started making a contribution.
So it was 2 years that Landry had you at middle linebacker.
Well, I would go in and I would rush the passer some, but basically I was Leroy's backup at the middle linebacker position for the first 2 years. Really wasn't sure what I was doing there. Bob Brunick knew more about it than I did, and he was playing outside linebacker. But that's why ultimately he ended up being our middle linebacker, and I ended up being the defensive tackle.
And as Gil Brandt tells the story, their draft pick came down to either Randy White or Walter Payton. And they said morning of the draft, they had some study done about the longevity of a running back and the longevity of a linebacker / defensive player. And they decided that the running backs didn't last very long.
Which still holds true today.
Right, maybe 5 years, something like that. And so they said, okay, we're going to make an investment in a guy that's going to be here for a while. And he ended up being there for 14 years.
Well,
and only 4 guys now have played longer than that, and Jason Witten's one of them now playing his 15th season.
And we had that as a trivia question. So I need 2 other ones, Mark Tuinei and Bill Bates.
That's right.
Am I
That's right.
Bill Jones?
That's right.
We had a trivia question on the show.
And you had one more, though. Did you get the third one?
Bob Lilly played 14 years.
Right.
So we had Tuinei, Bates, Randy, and Jason Witten is now into his 15th year.
So there was 3 before Witten.
Who was that?
Ed Too Tall.
Yeah,
oh, that's right, Ed. How can I forget Ed?
Right. Ed, I hope you're not listening. Randy,
sorry
about you.
Ed, sorry.
Have you ever met him?
Yeah,
and of course they were
spent 15
fixture
years
alongside.
Did you line up next to him?
Not.
You were on the other side.
I was 2 over from Ed.
Okay.
But,
And of course, just in his 3rd year in the National Football League, Randy White was a Super Bowl MVP along with Harvey Martin.
Yeah, that was a.
Can you believe that's 40 years ago?
Mickey,
don't remind me.
Mickey, yeah, I can believe it's 40 years ago. But no, that was. I mean, that was just like something that you dream about. You don't even dream about. We were just fortunate. When I was a rookie, we played in the Super Bowl 10 and had 12 rookies, the Dirty Dozen, and we contributed a lot on the special teams. But that particular game, the thing I remember the most was after the game. You may have heard this story, Mickey, but
that's okay. They have it.
They have it. After the game, that we lost the game, everybody was upset, and we went out. The buses were full. So the PR guy, Dan Werner, he said, "Randy, you and Burton Lawless, he was my roommate, you go ride in the police escort car." So we go get to the police escort car, and I get ready to get in the back seat, and I see this guy back there with this real long, scraggly hair and a beard, and looked like he just got off the street corner, right? I said, Burton, you sit back there with that guy. And I just sat in the front seat. I just sit in the front seat, and I'm riding down the road. This guy taps me on the shoulder. He goes, hey, Randy, he says, I'm Willie Nelson. I'm a big fan of yours. I went, oh, true story. And then at the after party, they had some little humdrum band up there, and everybody was moping around. And then Jimmy Buffett got up there and started singing, Barmaid, bring a pitcher. And Bob Brunick, who played the guitar, we got up on stage and got this thing up against the wall, Redneck Mother, with Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, wow, Jimmy Buffett, and Jerry Jeff Walker.
Wow.
So that's what I remember of Super Bowl 10. That's the one we lost.
In 1975. And by the way, the Dirty Dozen, among those, well, the 12 rookies in that draft class who made the team, here, take a listen to some of these names. Randy White was a first-round draft pick, number 2. The Cowboys also had a second first-round draft pick, number 18 overall from Langston University in Oklahoma, Thomas Hollywood Henderson.
Yep.
Burton Lawless was a second-round pick. Bob Brunig was the third-round pick. Pat Donovan in the fourth round, along with Randy Hughes. And then Kyle Davis, Roland Woolsey, Mike Hegman, who played for years at linebacker for the Cowboys, Mitch Hoops, a different Ed Jones.
Yeah. I don't think he made it.
Out of Rutgers. Yeah. Actually, he apparently made the team.
It shows he made it.
It shows he made the team. Herb Scott was a 13th round draft pick out of that class, and Scott Laidlaw. That's a pretty good draft class.
Yeah, it was a great draft class, and a lot of those guys played for a long time. I remember Herb Scott ended up being one of the best guards in the league. And our Raleigh Woolsey, the guy you said, I got one funny story that I'll tell you about that. You know, we had Mike Dick, who was our special teams coach. So we get a punt blocked in the game. So we're in the meeting, and Dick is showing the film. And as Woolsey's kicking, he's getting it blocked. He said, Woolsey, he says, that's Pete Rozelle's name on the ball. Quit trying to read it and just kick the football.
Man, I can only imagine the Mike Ditka story.
So, yeah, how would you like to have Mike Ditka as your special teams coach? Oh, my goodness.
Did he ever yell at you?
Oh, he never not yelled at you. He yelled at you when you did something good.
All right, we continue.
We got to go to
a
break.
little break right here, Mickey. All
sorry,
right.
I lost track. Your water's in front of
I'm
the
sorry.
clock.
Here we go.
Yeah.
All right. We continue with the great Randy White on the Cowboys Legend Show in just a moment.
Yo, everybody
On a tree, York City in the daytime. I like New York City in the nighttime. You say you like sleeping with the air off. I don't, I need it on. You like the light coming through the windows. I sleep late, so I just keep them all closed. You ignore the music on the radio. I don't, I sing along. I don't ask for you to change. Living on and on, and you don't ask for me to change. Tell me that we're not alike, but we work so well, and we don't even know why. From the other side's cross right, 'cause we work so well, and we don't even know why. You can call it fire and ice, but we work so well, and we don't even know why. We don't even know why. No, no, we don't even know why. No, 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 no. Black item, time.
Big Ben struck midnight.
To the SWBC Mortgage Dallas Cowboys Legends Show. Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
SWBC Mortgage brings you the Cowboys Legends Show for more than 40 years. SWBC, helping people, companies, and financial institutions prepare to win in Texas and across the country. Visit SWBC.com to learn more. Bill Jones with Mickey Spagnola and our Cowboys Legends guest, the Hall of Famer Randy White, here with us for another half hour. Speaking of winning in Texas, Randy's alma mater, the University of Maryland, won in Texas last month. Got a big game this week. Are you aware of this, Randy?
They play Ohio State. I know that.
They got Ohio State this week, and they knock off Ohio State.
I don't think so, Bill. But if they do, I tell you what, they'll be on their way. I didn't think they'd beat Texas, and
neither did Texas.
But they did a great job there, and I wouldn't be surprised. But they're down to their third team quarterback.
Oh, are they really?
They had two good quarterbacks, and now they're down to the third one. So I think that may hurt them.
All of a sudden, he's paying attention to the Terrapins. All these years we've been doing this pregame show on CBS 11. I asked him about Maryland. He said, "I don't know what they're doing." And now you know what they're doing.
I'm a typical fan.
That's
Bill.
right.
If they win, I'll watch them. If they're not winning, I'm not going to watch them.
We should go to Smacker. Otherwise, Bill and I will ask all the questions. What do you got there, Smacker?
Here's Driscoll.
Hey, Randy, loved your barbecue, and I went to the original place you had where you gave away free beer because you couldn't get the license soon enough.
In the beginning, we gave away free beer, free cobbler, and ice cream also.
No wonder you're not in business anymore.
No wonder we went out of business.
Hey, I understand you played fullback at some time in your college career. Is that right?
I grew up when I was in high school. I was a fullback and middle linebacker. Played that all the way through high school, and then when I went to college my freshman year, you could go both ways. You weren't eligible to play varsity, but I played both ways. I played fullback and defensive end at the University of Maryland, and then when Coach Claiborne got there, he switched me to the end in that wide tackle 6 defense. So that's where I ended up playing in the defensive line.
So, Bill,
I'm glad he did it.
You were reading off those guys, the Dirty Dozen.
Yes.
So, have you ever heard of that first year, the roommates?
No.
Do you remember all your roommates? You guys lived together?
Well, we had
the Dirty Dozen all live together?
No, not all 12.
No, it was Burton Lawless, Bob Brunick, and myself.
3 of them.
3 of us lived together. Now, which part of that do you want me to tell?
I just can't imagine those 3 guys in one apartment.
Well, I remember our famous quarterback there, Clint Longley, used to bring rattlesnakes into the locker room. Well, of course, I had to get one, right? And I went and I got this fish tank, and I put the rattlesnake in there, and I used to put little white mice in there. And the snake, he would never eat, right? He'd never eat. And Bob and Burton loved me for doing that because none of us slept. I didn't sleep. But I thought it was cool to have that rattlesnake in there. But finally, at the end of the year, I took it back home to Delaware, and I released him in a state park in Delaware, a rattlesnake. Yeah, and then they found some rattlesnakes in Delaware after that. So
the funny part was, and the other part was that I never would have imagined it that Bruning was like the guitar guy, right?
Oh, Bob he could really Actually, when he was in college, he used to play in different, he'd get paid to go play the guitar and sing. So so in the evenings, we'd sing all of Willie's songs. That was what was so ironic when I was in the car with Willie. I knew all the words of all his songs, and we used to sing them all the time. But anyway.
1975, Dallas, Texas, with these three guys living together.
I remember where it was one place they had a wooden, I forget the name of it, on Greenville Avenue. We used to live right on Greenville Avenue. And we took the wooden Indian. Now, what these guys do today, they get in trouble for doing nothing, right?
Right.
We take the wooden Indian out of this place, and Bob's got a BMW, and I ride home down on Greenville Avenue to our apartment in the back of Bob's BMW in the trunk, and we take the wooden Indian into the house, and the next day we get a call from Gil Brandt, and Gil says, Randy, he says, take the Indian back when you get off practice.
Greenville Avenue. You ever hang out at Up Your Alley?
Oh, yeah. Bowie and Wilson.
Bowie and Wilson.
Alley. Are you kidding me? I used to
they were legendary. I love that place. The Blue Bathroom Humor Band, Bowley and Wilson at Up Your Alley.
Bowley and Wilson, and they had a contest every Thursday night I won't mention, but I was always a judge there for years.
Oh, it was a great place.
Yeah, it was.
I played pool against Joe Montana at Up Your Alley when he was at the University of Notre Dame. He was at Notre Dame for the Cotton Bowl, and I had no idea that it was Joe Montana. And they had just arrived in town.
You didn't?
No. They had just arrived in town. All the Notre Dame football team was in there. We were in the back. We were playing pool. And the next morning, I wake up and I pick up the Dallas Morning News, and I see this guy in a 10-gallon hat getting off the airplane. And that was the guy I played pool against last night. It was Joe Montana. That was before Joe Montana became Joe Montana.
In Bowling Wilson.
In Up Your Alley. Yep.
In Up Your Alley. Well, you remember in Up Your Alley, you had a wooden floor.
Uh-huh.
And I forget the guy's name. He was the shot putter from the University of Texas. And we were in there, and he clean and jerked a keg, right? So, of course, me being Mr. Weightlifter, I got to do it. So I cleaned it, and I tried to jerk. I missed it. I couldn't get it all the way up, and I was shaking, and I dropped it, and I dropped a keg right through the floor in Bowling Wilson.
I believe it.
That's a true story.
Hey, Texas OU weekend, that was an amazing place. And people would line up there at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The band didn't start playing until 9.
Hey, my first Texas OU weekend, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I thought, okay, there's a rivalry between Texas and Oklahoma. These people really didn't like each other. I mean, I could not believe it that this was that big of a rivalry. Unbelievable.
I'm scared to ask a football question. This is too good, right? Why should I get serious? So, you go to a Super Bowl your first year.
Yes.
And then 2 more a year later. So 3 out of the first 4 years in the NFL, you're in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Did you figure that just kind of the way things went?
Yeah, I'm spoiled. I'm thinking surely we're going back to another Super Bowl. And, we played in 3 NFC championship games and never got another opportunity to play in another Super Bowl. So that's why I always say, when you have a chance to get to a Super Bowl, cherish that moment, because you never know when you'll get a chance to go back. It's tough to get there.
So the 77 season one, you beat Denver. You're co-MVP.
Right.
Tell them the story how you found out that you were the co-MVP.
Well, Harvey and I were on the sidelines, and Harvey comes up to me and puts his arm around me. He goes, Randy, we're the co-MVPs of the game. It didn't even sink in my mind, and Harvey, Harvey always liked the cameras and getting the publicity,
right.
and a big Harvey grabbed me and he turned me, and we're taking all these pictures, and but
and it's the famous one that's on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
And the next morning, they wanted us to go to Good Morning America and be on Good Morning America television show.
Had you slept?
I never opened my door. I told him I'm not going. Harvey went. I didn't go. I had a chance to be on national television, and then we went to New York and picked up the cars. We each got a Thunderbird. Well, I had mine home, and I was, I'm originally from Pennsylvania. When I drove my car back home, and I'm driving up to see my grandmother up in Pennsylvania, and I hit a deer, and I totaled the whole front end out of that brand new Thunderbird. So, anyway.
And the beautiful Harvey Martin.
Y'all want to hear these stories?
Yes. They're asking for more.
The beautiful Harvey Martin. He never met a camera he didn't like.
Harv was a great guy.
And of course, he had his own radio show, the beautiful Harvey Martin.
The beautiful Harvey Martin.
That's right.
Were you ever a guest on it?
I don't think Harv ever had me on.
He didn't want you.
No, he didn't want me on there. But Harv was a great guy and a great football player, and I miss him every year at the Super Bowl. When with the Super Bowl MVP stuff comes up, I always, think about Harvey and what a great guy he was, and what great. Harvey and I sometimes, we would argue on the field. Harvey and I would get into it. Like we'd call a stunt, or I'd call a stunt, and I'd go one way, and Harvey would go the other, and he wouldn't go the way I wanted him to go. And we'd start yelling at each other, and we'd be on the field in each other's face. Then the other team's walking up to the line of scrimmage, and Harvey and I are, and we just get down in our stand. He must have thought, what these guys play? They don't like each other. But we loved each other. We just communicated in a different way.
That's too much.
And probably little to no communication going on with Ed on the other side, because he's a quiet guy, or he comes across as a quiet guy.
Ed's very quiet. I played with Ed for probably 4 years, and I talk more to y'all tonight than I talked to Ed in 4 years. But Ed and I did get to know, and now we're really, really good friends. Right. But Ed loves boxing. If you want Ed to talk, you talk to him about the fight game, or now you talk to you about anything any subject that comes up. But Ed's a great, great, great guy, and was a great football player on our team. And if they kept track, they keep track of sacks, right? If they kept track of batted down passes, Ed would lead the world in that.
That's right.
Because he affected the way that quarterback threw the ball constantly. Every time they would go to the right-hand side, they'd have a 6'9" Ed Jones in their face, and that was a big advantage to us in a lot of ways.
I've always thought Ed and Harvey ought to be going into the Ring of Honor together.
I agree with you, Bill, 100%.
Smacker, you got a question over there?
Here's Keller.
Yeah, I got a couple, but I want to tell you, have you ever thought about writing a book? I mean, you got so many stories.
I'll forget all of them by the time I get to write them.
Let me ask you, there's two of them I would like to ask. One I've always asked is about training camp back in the time when y'all were down in Thousand Oaks. Some funny story you can share with us there. And the other one is, what about the scab time when they had the scabs? I know that was kind of an interesting time, too.
Well, that was the strike year and that whole thing. That was probably my worst when I really didn't enjoy football, because I had to make a decision that was unpopular with me as well as with my teammates. But the guys that I explained to my situation, they understood exactly what I was doing and why I was doing it. So that was never really a big problem. But that was a time that I didn't, I didn't enjoy football. I mean, then I didn't enjoy playing. I didn't want to be out there. The effort, if you ever saw a game film of one of those games, the effort that I put out was zero. That's the only time my whole life I didn't like playing football. And unfortunately, we had to go through that, and there was not a good time for us when we came back. The next couple of years were really, I don't know whether that had a whole lot to do with it. I'd hate to think it did, but, that was a time I did not enjoy playing football.
I mean, you guys, 4 or 5 of you got forced to come back because you had an annuity, and Tex had a little loophole there that if you didn't show up for work, he wasn't going to fund your annuity, right?
Well, what I wish I would have done is what Ed and Tony did. They waited a day and then came in. And Tex told them, look, if you don't come in, you're going to lose this annuity.
Right.
Well, I went to him prior to, I was advised by some friends to go ahead and go in, have a meeting with him and find out exactly where I stood. And Tex told me, look, if you don't come, you're in jeopardy of losing that annuity. So, there really was no choice. I had to do it. And had it do over again, I'd have waited one day and then came in there. So, but that's just, it's just what it is. So.
And we had a little standoff when he showed up, too.
Oh, gee. I can't. That's one of them ones I can't tell you, Mickey, but
I saw it. I could tell it.
Oh, we came in that day, that morning. We had the meeting with the team and the whole deal, and then we went back to the practice field, and our Larry Wansley, our the security, yes.
Yeah.
he saw Don Smerick and I told us, why don't you guys just go home and come back tomorrow? it was not a good morning for us.
All right.
They had to actually cross a picket line.
I remember that.
There was picketing going on.
TV
This was a different
too.
type of protest than what we talk about these days, right?
Now, this one, you know, and a friend of mine had took these 2 boat arc fence posts and made us 2 clubs, right? I mean, it's too, you can't make this stuff up, right? So this guy taps my truck with his sign. So I get out for about 2 seconds, and I say, nah, Randy, just drive in there.
Get back
in the truck.
And then he's got a couple teammates that are going to stand in front of him, so he revs the engine and pops the clutch, and these guys go scattering because he's coming through.
Wow. All right, we continue with the Manster, Randy White, on the Cowboys Legend Show in a moment.
was 6 years old, I broke my leg. And I was running from my brother and his friends, and tasted the sweet perfume of the mountain grass I rolled down. I was younger then. Take me back to when I found my heart, broke it here, made friends and lost them through the years. And I've not seen the boring fields in so long. I know I've grown, but I can't wait to go home. I'm on my way, driving at 90 down those country lanes, singing to Tiny Dancer, and I miss the way you make me feel. It's real. We watch the sunset over the castle lonely hill. 15 years old and smoking and rolled cigarettes, running from the law through the backfields and getting drunk with my friends. Had my first kiss on a Friday night. I don't reckon that I did it right, but I was younger then. Take me back to when we found weekend jobs, and when we got paid, we'd buy cheap spirits and drink them straight. Me and my friends have not thrown up in so long. Oh, how we've grown, but I can't wait to go home. I'm on my way, driving at 90 down those country lanes, singing to Tiny Dancer, and I miss the way you make me feel. It's real. We watch the sunset over.
It's a touchdown. Oh, Big Ben struck midnight.
To the SWBC Mortgage Dallas Cowboys Legends Show. Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
Got about 10 minutes left here on the Cowboys Legend Show with the great Randy White, as we are at the Cowboys Club here at the Star in Frisco, overlooking the Cowboys practice field here at Ford Center. And SWBC Mortgage is our sponsor for more than 40 years. SWBC, helping people, companies, and financial institutions prepare to win in Texas and across the country. Visit SWBC.com to learn more. Now, Randy, earlier you talked about how much Ed Too Tall Jones loves the sport of boxing, but I understand you boxed at one point?
Well, they came to me and they asked me, did I want to fight? Remember when they used to have those tough man contests, right, in Vegas? So they came to me and they wanted me to fight. So I said, I really didn't want to fight.
So when was this about?
I was 50 years old. I remember that. I was 50. So I told him, I said, well, I'll fight if you pay me $100,000 to do it. I figured, no way they're going to pay me $100,000 to fight, right? About 2 weeks later, they call me. They say, okay, you got a deal. Now I got 6 weeks to train, and I got to fight Joe Klecko, who Joe Klecko's from up in Chester, PA. He used to spar with Joe Frazier. He was one of Joe's.
Wow. Smoking Joe Frazier.
Joe was one of Frazier's sparring partners. You know how Joe's built, big, stocky, and down low. So our strength coach, Bob Ward, I called Dr. Bob, and I said, Bob, I got to fight in 6 weeks. I said, I need a training program. Can you help me? So he gave me a training program for 6 weeks. I got ready, went to Vegas. Other guys fought, but it came down to that match of who was going to win, the AFC or the NFC. and I had talked to Joe prior to that. He was a friend of mine, played for the Jets. And I said, look, Joe, let's do it. I said, but if I win, we're still friends. If you win, we're still friends. He said, okay, deal. Well, his son, who used to play for the New England Patriots, defensive tackle, before we went in the ring, he came over to his ring. He said, don't hurt my dad. Right? He used to spar with Frazier, and he's worried about his dad hurting me, right? Anyway, the second round, I caught Joe. I caught him with a left hook, and I got him right on the chin and knocked him out. And I helped him up when he came to his senses. I helped him up, and I told him I was sorry right away. When I said, I'm sorry, Joe. He says, that's all right, Randy. We got the money.
What size gloves were you using?
16-ounce
Oh,
gloves.
you used the 6 ones.
Yeah, we use 16 ounces. So
I got hit with those pillows once, and it felt like 8 ounces.
Yeah, they still hurt, and they made us wear the
headgear,
the headgear, and the protection stuff. So yeah,
I bet you got in shape though.
Yeah. I trained every day. I had one of the guys that I trained martial arts with came out, and every day we trained. And Dr. Bob gave me a regiment that would get me to peak strength for 6 weeks. And I wasn't in bad shape because I always stay in halfway decent shape. But
yeah, we can tell.
But then I get another call, right? And they want me to go down to Mississippi at one of the casinos, and they want me to fight Butterbean, the big guy Butterbean, right? I told them same thing. I said, look, you pay me $100,000, I'll fight Hercules. Let's do it. So they say, no, we can't do it. So I got to thinking, so I called them back. I said, look, how about we do this? How about we do winner take all, but you can use elbows and knees? Because I figured regular boxing, this guy probably might get me. But I said, if I can kick him and elbow him and knee him, I'm going to win. So, and they wouldn't do it. So anyways, I didn't have to fight that fight.
Story time with Randy White continues here. What do you got, Smacker?
Here's Jameson.
Who is the hardest person you ever had to tackle and why?
The hardest person I ever had to tackle? Boy, there was a lot of great running backs I played against. When people ask me, of course, Walter Payton, Eric Dickerson was a great runner, Walter Payton. But the guy that was the toughest, that would hit you, that I hit as hard as I could, and he would always get up, was a running back from Philadelphia, Wilbert Montgomery, number 31.
Yep.
And Wilbert Montgomery, I've hit him so hard sometimes that it hurt me. And he would always get up. And then when you would go to tackle him, if he could see you coming, he would put his head down and turn towards you and run at you and try to hit you. So, Walter Payton, I never played against Tony. I always say Tony's the best and Walter's the best. And
how about John Riggins?
John Riggins was a bear. He was a monster, especially running behind that big offensive line. You never really could get a good, clean shot at him. He was a big, strong guy. Like I said, there's a bunch of tough ones. They're all tough. But if I had to pick one on my team, it would be Walter Payton. Tony would be first, and then I'd pick Walter if I had to pick somebody else.
All right, the Cowboy rivals. Which is the team that you hated the most?
Well, I didn't like any of them, Bill. I mean, I couldn't say that I disliked one more than the other because I disliked them all.
Which team did your mom hate the most?
Well, my mom didn't like any of them either, but she got in the most fights in Philadelphia, so that was I can tell that one story. I'll tell one story. Can I tell the one?
You got a minute and a half.
Minute and a half. Okay, my mom. She was a cheer, she's a little stocky lady, and she wasn't afraid to express her opinion. So she's in there cheering for the Cowboys. Somebody pours a beer.
Philadelphia?
Yeah. Somebody pours a beer on her head. No, somebody pours a beer on my sister's head. Well, my brother hits him, knocks him between the chairs. Well, my mom, she always carried a blackjack with her.
You guys
always.
know what blackjacks are?
Blackjack. A little club.
Stick.
Yeah, she knows.
Stick, and they wind tape on it. And
yeah, and she took the blackjack out, and this old lady, she's straddling this guy, hitting him like this, and the police had to come drag her off of him, and they kicked that guy. They said they kicked that guy out of the stadium, and everybody cheered for my mother. So,
even though she was a Cowboy fan,
even though she's the only Cowboy fan the Philly fans ever cheered for in their life.
They booed Santa Claus, but they cheered.
They cheered my mother.
Oh. We need to do that book. I think we need to do that.
Good. Mickey wrote a book about the Cowboy-Redskin rivalry.
I didn't get any of those stories.
So
we got that one. I think we got one from him about when they had to come and get him out of the locker room in RFK, right?
All right. Cowboys winning
get your
this week,
family.
right?
They're fighting outside.
Cowboys winning this week, right?
Yeah, Cowboys win this week. This is going to be Green Bay Packers. It's going to be our turn. Our turn to beat them.
All right, there you go. The great Randy White, our Legends guest this week. Thanks, Randy, and we will see you again next week right here on the Cowboys Legends Show.
Thank you all.